This is big.
It triggers something in me that something has to be done.
The Second Amendment protects the right to carry a gun in public for self-defense.
The Supreme Court today handed down a major victory for gun control advocates.
Now, this is the most significant Second Amendment ruling in more than a decade.
The Supreme Court just did something that hasn't happened in decades. 9 justices from opposite ends of the political spectrum came together in total agreement on a case that fundamentally changes how police can use deadly force against American citizens. And if you own a firearm, this ruling just became your most powerful legal shield. While everyone was distracted by the latest political drama, the highest court in the land quietly rewrote the rules of engagement between law enforcement and armed citizens. This wasn't some technical adjustment or bureaucratic tweak. This was a complete rejection of how courts have been handling police shootings for years. The case started with a traffic stop that ended in tragedy. A man named Ashton Barnes was pulled over for something as minor as toll violations. Within 5 seconds, he was dead. 2 bullets fired by Officer Robert Felix Jr. ended his life during what should have been a routine encounter. But what happened in those 5 seconds would eventually reach the Supreme Court and change everything we thought we knew about police use of force. Here's where it gets interesting. For decades, courts have been using what they call the moment of threat standard. Basically, if an officer felt threatened in that split second before pulling the trigger, the shooting was automatically justified. Courts would ignore everything that led up to that moment. They'd ignore what happened after. All that mattered was that fraction of a second when the officer decided to fire. Think about how dangerous that is. An officer could escalate a situation, make terrible decisions, create chaos, and then claim self-defense when things predictably went wrong. As long as they felt threatened in that final instant, they were legally protected. Context didn't matter. The full story didn't matter. Just that one moment. The Supreme Court looked at this system and said, absolutely not. In a unanimous decision that shocked legal experts, they threw out the moment of threat doctrine entirely. Justice Elena Kagan, writing for all 9 justices, declared that courts must now examine the totality of circumstances in every police shooting case. Let me explain why this matters so much, especially if you're a gun owner. When Officer Felix pulled over Ashton Barnes that day, things escalated fast. Barnes initially complied when asked to exit his vehicle. He opened the door, started to get out, then suddenly changed his mind and tried to drive away. Officer Felix made a split-second decision to jump onto the car's door ledge. Within 2 seconds of the car moving, he fired twice into the vehicle, killing Barnes. Under the old standard, case closed. The officer was on a moving vehicle, felt threatened, and fired. Justified shooting, no questions asked. The lower courts ruled exactly that way. Both the district court and the appeals court sided with Officer Felix, focusing only on those 2 seconds when he clung to the moving car. But the Supreme Court saw something the lower courts missed.
Don't fucking move! Don't fucking move! Watch out, fucking shot fire! Shot fire!
As the nation deals with a recent wave of mass shootings, the Supreme Court expanded gun rights.
We want to see Congress pass laws that will help reduce crime without infringing on the rights of law-abiding citizens.
For the Supreme Court, it's all about language, reasonable suspicion, objective reasonable belief, or probable cause. Saying setting a higher threshold in an emergency could mean life or death.
They asked questions that had been forbidden under the old rules. Why did the officer jump onto the car in the first place? Could he have stepped back instead? Was Barnes actually trying to hurt the officer, or was he just trying to leave? These questions matter because they reveal whether the use of deadly force was truly necessary or whether it was the result of poor decision-making that created an avoidable tragedy. The court's message was crystal clear. You can't cherry-pick 2 seconds out of an encounter and ignore everything else. The entire interaction matters. Every decision, every escalation, every opportunity to de-escalate becomes legally relevant. This isn't just about being fair to victims of police shootings. It's about holding law enforcement to a constitutional standard that protects all of us. Now, if you're sitting there thinking this is just another police accountability ruling, you're missing the bigger picture. This decision fundamentally changes how the Fourth Amendment protects gun owners during police encounters. And let me tell you why that's such a big deal. Gun owners are statistically more likely to have police encounters than almost any other group of citizens. Whether it's during a traffic stop where you inform the officer you're legally carrying, a knock on your door from someone investigating a complaint, or even a routine check at a shooting range, the potential for misunderstanding is always there. And misunderstandings when firearms are involved can turn deadly in seconds.
Public safety concerns must be addressed in ways that are lawful. This rule is not.
This is something that actually comes from common law England. The king is sovereign, and the government has to waive that sovereign immunity.
As we all know, that searches require, under the Fourth Amendment, a warrant.
The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Major decision from the Supreme Court that could have larger implications on gun laws nationwide.
Under the old moment of threat rule, if an officer saw your legally carried weapon and felt threatened, even for a second, that could justify using force against you. It didn't matter if you were following the law. It didn't matter if you were being cooperative. It didn't matter if the officer created the threatening situation through their own actions. All that mattered was that split second of perceived danger. This new standard changes the game entirely. Now, courts have to look at the whole encounter. Did you announce you were carrying as required by law? Were you reaching for your license and registration when ordered to do so? Did the officer escalate the situation unnecessarily? All of these factors now matter in determining whether force was justified. Think about what this means in practical terms. An officer can no longer create a dangerous situation through poor tactics or aggressive behavior and then claim self-defense when things go sideways. The full context of your lawful behavior as a gun owner becomes part of the legal record. Your compliance, your communication, your attempts to follow the law, all of it counts. This creates a fascinating convergence of constitutional rights. The Second Amendment protects your right to bear arms. The Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable seizures. And yes, being shot by police is the ultimate seizure. For the first time, the Supreme Court has effectively linked these rights together, saying that lawful gun ownership cannot be used as an excuse for police to bypass Fourth Amendment protections.
God, how cool is this?
Police officers are trained to ask the same 3 questions every single time they pull somebody over.
State can't make everywhere a sensitive place. You can't go hiking in some places and not be able to defend yourself against somebody that you run into.
We won't see changes overnight, but it's going to be quick.
The majority of the court ruling the Constitution protects a person's right to carry a gun outside the home.
It's part of my license, and I'm legally allowed to carry it. That's one way of answering.
Give us transparency in how you're going to handle them. And if there's a roadmap of what you're going to follow that's more clear, then it's going to be a fairer process for everyone.
The implications ripple out in every direction. Police departments across the country will need to retrain their officers. The old, "I feared for my life" defense just got a lot more complicated. Officers will need to justify not just their final decision to use force, but every decision that led up to that moment. Did they have alternatives? Did they create the danger? Did they misinterpret lawful actions as threats? For gun owners, this ruling provides a new level of legal protection, but it also comes with responsibility. The totality of circumstances works both ways. Your behavior throughout an encounter matters too. Clear communication, calm compliance with lawful orders, and proper handling of your firearm all become part of that total context courts will examine. Legal experts are already calling this the most significant Fourth Amendment decision in a generation. Some are comparing it to Miranda rights in terms of its potential impact on police procedures. But unlike Miranda, which everyone knows about, this ruling is flying under the radar. Most Americans have no idea their rights just got significantly stronger. The unanimous nature of the decision sends an even more powerful message. This wasn't a partisan split decision that might get overturned when the court's composition changes. 9 justices, including some of the most conservative and liberal members of the court, agreed completely. They're telling lower courts, police departments, and citizens that this new standard isn't up for debate. It's constitutional law. What happens next will be fascinating to watch. Lawyers representing victims of police shootings now have a powerful new tool. Cases that seemed hopeless under the moment of threat doctrine suddenly have new life. Police unions will likely push back, arguing that this standard makes officers' jobs more dangerous. But the court has spoken. Constitutional rights don't become optional just because enforcing them is challenging. For everyday gun owners, this ruling should change how you think about police encounters. You now have stronger legal protection, but you also have clear incentive to handle these situations carefully. Document your encounters when possible. Communicate clearly about your legal carry status. Follow state and local laws about disclosure. Make sure your behavior contributes to a totality of circumstances that shows you as the law-abiding citizen you are. This decision also highlights why staying informed about your rights matters so much. While everyone else was arguing about the latest Twitter controversy or cable news drama, the Supreme Court quietly strengthened constitutional protections in a way that affects millions of Americans. How many gun owners will go through their next police encounter not knowing their rights just got stronger? How many will fail to assert these protections because they never heard about this ruling?
Even if you are innocent, your words can still be twisted and taken out of context.
Not giving notice, well, that's required. Well, and when you take that away from people, you don't follow the rulemaking process, and you have to invalidate the rule.
The U.S. Supreme Court has just issued a major ruling in the challenge to a New York gun law.
The first major federal gun safety legislation in decades is now moving forward.
If a police officer asks you about drinking, drugs, or guns, your answer could be the difference between going home or going to jail.
The Barnes versus Felix decision represents something larger than just one case or one legal doctrine. It's a reminder that our constitutional rights aren't just words on paper. They're living protections that evolve and strengthen when courts take their duty seriously. 9 justices looked at how lower courts were handling police shootings and unanimously said, this isn't good enough. The Constitution demands better. As we move forward, this ruling will reshape thousands of cases across the country. It will influence how police are trained, how encounters are handled, and how courts evaluate the use of force. Most importantly, it restores balance to a system that had tilted too far toward protecting split-second decisions at the expense of constitutional rights. Whether you're a gun owner, a civil rights advocate, or just someone who believes in constitutional limits on government power, this decision matters. It says that context matters, that rights matter, and that courts must look at the whole truth, not just the convenient parts. In an era of increasing polarization, 9 justices found something they could all agree on. The Constitution means what it says, and it protects all of us. That's it for today, folks. See you in the next video.